Hi everyone, my name is Oluwaseun Oyekola and I'll be presenting the paper titled Techno-Economic Analysis of Briquette Production from Carbonized Corn Stover. This paper was written by Ms. Ngubani, who recently completed her master's degree under my supervision. Maize is a staple food in South Africa, and with increasing population and food demand, the problem of agricultural residues and in South African context, maize residues, the management of this waste has become very challenging. Corn stover refers to stalks, leaves, and cobs that remain in fields after the corn's harvest, and a huge amount of this is produced per year. It's been recorded that 9 to 16 megatons of corn residues are produced per year. 70% of this is only used in in animal feed rather, and soil conditioning. So what this means is that a huge amount is still left unused. And if you look at the characteristics of corn stover, the fact that it's 70% of it is made of cellulose and hemicellulose, and 50 to 20% of it is made of lignin. This shows that it's got potential for valorization. Hence, solid waste finding alternative measures to solid waste disposal, especially the ones that incorporate pollution reduction with resource recovery, is usually a welcome idea. The main management systems, as I've indicated, earlier on, which have to do with the soil fertility and also which have to do with, animal feed. Those ones still leave a massive amount of waste behind that we still need to deal with. But if you look at the other challenge that faces South Africa, apart from the environmental pollution, there's also the problem of energy crisis. Currently, South Africa is facing electricity shortage, and aside that, 70% of the energy generation is from coal, as you can see from Figure 1. And it shows that South Africa is limited to the use of renewable energy as a source of energy. And aside that, it should also be noted that more than 80% of South African households have access to electricity. While this might sound impressive, it should still be noted that the remaining people, which amounts to about 3.4 million households, have no electricity. And these folks have to depend on firewood, which which is associated with environmental pollution and health challenges. Hence, it's essential to find cleaner ways of disposing this waste. So different technologies are typically used or employed to harness or to valorize, crop residues or biomass waste in order to get the energy, in order to recover energy. And this include the direct combustion process. The very common one is co-firing with coal. So using co-firing with coal, you reduce dependence on coal, and also you can reduce the emission of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere coming from coal. So we can mitigate, it's minor, but we can still mitigate, some of the effect of global warming based on coal combustion. The other route is thermochemical. These are the thermochemical processes, and we have pyrolysis, carbonization, gasification, and catalytic liquefaction. The one that is being emphasized on in this project is slow pyrolysis, which we'll talk about more in a bit. But before we talk about the pyrolysis, let's quickly talk about the third route of recovering energy from waste, and that is biochemical processes. These often depend on microorganisms or the products of microorganisms referred to as enzymes as mediators. Examples of biochemical processes are biodiesel production. Another one is ethanol fermentation, and then we can also have methane production through anaerobic digestion. So as I mentioned earlier, I said that we can use the thermochemical process to valorize corn stover, and we using slow pyrolysis. And the reason why slow pyrolysis is of interest is because it produces the three main products. If you look at there is relatively an even distribution of the products: the solid, which is the biochar; the liquid, which is the bio-oil; and biogas, the gaseous part. So it meets the benefits. So looking at this, the biochar, looking at this, you'll also see, if you compare it with the three other forms of the thermochemical processes, you see that a huge amount of biochar is produced, which can be used further, as we'll see in the next couple of slides, to produce what we call briquettes by densifying biochar. So after taking the corn stover through slow pyrolysis and biochar is produced, this biochar can be densified into solid forms, which are called briquettes. And from the initial experiments we've done, which we've successfully done, I'm looking at those pictures in figure 3, you could see the briquettes that have been produced by densifying the biochar. And it's been shown that these briquettes are very eco-friendly because they are smokeless. They also have low ash content. They have low sulfur content. This shows potential for it to replace coal and even firewood that we mentioned earlier on, that about 3.4 million households often depend on. So this is why we are focusing on using this readily available material. So the aim and objective of this project as follows. It's as follows. This study explored the viability of producing eco-friendly solid fuel from corn stover waste in order to relieve the ever-increasing South Africa's energy demands, which we've laid the background for that in the previous slides. And the main objective is based on the fact that there is a dearth in literature of the techno-economic assessment of carbonized corn stover of briquette production plants in South Africa. So based on that, our objective is to determine the prospect of developing an efficient production process through techno-economic assessment. And as we mentioned earlier on, it's the corn stover waste that was used densified and was used through slow pyrolysis to generate biochar, and the biochar was densified, and then we carried out the techno-economic analysis. Now let's look at the methodology we used to achieve our aim and objectives. Experimental optimum conditions for biochar production and briquette production from corn stover has been detailed in a publication we've previously done. So these optimum conditions were the ones employed in this current research, in the research that I'm presenting here. So process development was demonstrated using a PFD for the slow pyrolysis section, and Super Pro Designer was used for the briquette production section. The flowsheet diagram, which is shown in figure 4, contains a slow pyrolysis plant which produces a biochar as its main product, as well as bio-oil and biogas as byproducts. The general production of carbonized briquettes is assumed to be done using electricity from the grid, and this is considered as the base case for this study. Moving on in the methodology, The production basis was for this process was 550 kilogram per hour in a semi-batch process. This is an average production capacity for small-scale briquetting plants. And the reason why we adopted this is that South Africa is a developing country and production of this carbonized biomass is still in its infancy stage. And the raw materials that were used are the ones that are readily available. The corn stover, as we mentioned earlier on, and also cornstarch was used as a binder, which is also readily available as a waste in many agri-processing plants. And the profitability indicators shown therein were used. And then in terms of calculating the revenue, the briquette selling price was taken at 650, which was based on $650, which was based on briquette prices that have similar qualities as the one we produce. So from this study, so we got the price from literature and from many other reputable sources. The bio-oil produced also was assumed to be sold as $0.4 per liter. This is for unrefined bio-oil. The utilities in this study are mainly water and electricity based on consumption. Our results and discussion. The direct, fixed, and general expenses were found to constitute 64%, 25%, and 11% respectively of the total manufacturing cost. The high direct manufacturing cost can be attributed to the high cost of raw materials and utility demand. This shows the need to investigate more scenarios where the bio-oil and biogas byproducts can be used as energy sources to supplement or replace electricity. The quality, it should also be noted that the quality of briquettes, if you look at figure 5b, you see that the majority of the revenue is from a briquette, which is about 85%. And this is also dependent on the quality of briquette. The reason why it's only a minute amount, a minute amount that is generated from bio-oil is simply because of the slow rate of its production. So in terms of the economic analysis, we could see that the DCF ROR is higher than the desired discount rate, which is 30%, and also the NPV that was generated is positive. Likewise, the discounted payback period of 2.64 years meets the desired requirements, which is less than 4 years. And also, if you were to compare results to the ones that have been provided in the literature, you see that they are comparable and even better off in certain instances. So in conclusion, we can say that carbonized corn stover briquettes can be considered as an efficient renewable energy source which can substitute or supplement coal. And also, we've also shown the fact that this process is viable in South Africa. Thank you so much for listening.